Hello, this is Metamaterial stock. As we can see, it's down 20% today to $1.65. Massive drop in price. This is MMTLP. As we can see, it's down about 13%, down to about $1.68. Massive drop in price, large volumes. If we look back, there's a fair amount of volume, but it's not too much volume actually, but there's a massive drop in price. So, so what happened? TLDR, too long didn't read, or the executive summary is there was a massive short attack today. The short attack is designed to increase volatility, confuse people, and spread panic. Okay, the goal is to induce shareholders to sell MMAT and MMTLP. The short attack happened immediately after earnings were announced and during the webcast. Okay, just when you think things might be, when you might be happy about things or whatever, it was pre-planned. It was just too, it was just too perfectly timed and orchestrated. Okay, now during the webcast and during the information that was presented last night, there was no new information regarding oil and gas assets, none at all. Okay, so we're still expecting an update in March regarding the MMTLP oil and gas assets that are for sale. The price of oil is rising, and Metamaterials, the company, is doing everything you can expect a shareholder of that company to do. Okay? All that said, I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. This information is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only. Okay? This is meant to be a quick video about Q4 and the fiscal year 2021 earnings and Q&A webcast and the price action of the stock as a result. Okay, basically the shorts were creating a ton of volatility here. This is the volatility that I mentioned in earlier slides, in earlier presentations, and this is what you can expect when people are desperate. Okay, when you see things like this, you don't know what's going on. You might be confused. Places to go for information are Twitter and Reddit. Okay, Twitter, you can check out the hashtag MMTLP and MMAT. On Reddit, you can check out the RMMAT subreddit. In terms of YouTube channels, best places to listen to are Uncle Smokey, Terry Yonkers, and Roller Pigeons. They're fairly good in terms of how quickly they can get videos out to you. You might find me on Twitter. You might find me on Reddit. I tend to be slower because, I tend to have other things that I'm thinking of and doing, so I might not be as fast as the rest of these guys. Okay. Check out their stuff first. Okay. That said, let's start. So Metamaterials announced Q4 and fiscal year 2021 results yesterday. They had an announcement, and then they filed the actual SEC filing after midnight or something like that. They weren't sure they could file, so they had a notification of an inability to timely file. Don't even worry about that. That's meaningless. That was a precautionary measure they took. But anyway, their filing is done. It's out there, and it's actually a fairly good report. It's what you can expect. Okay. They announced that they would have filing on the at the close of business day on March 1. It happened way after the close of business day, so a lot of people were waiting for the filing, and we didn't get it till later. So that might have caused some anxiety. Stuff happens, okay. But on Wednesday, today, March 2nd, they announced a webcast at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That works out to something like 8 a.m. Pacific Time, and at around that time, I'm getting ready to go to work and doing other things, so I didn't even get a chance to see it till later. So that's why I said check out those channels, and check out Twitter, and check out the other places first. Okay. So the webcast is at mysequire.com. You can go to the webcast and watch the replay. It's a little bit tricky. You gotta like log in, make a make a username, account, all that, and then click watch replay, and then you can see you can see the video of what they said, right? Uncle Smokey also has a video. His is excellent, and it was a live stream at the time, so I would recommend watching Uncle Smokey's video as well too. Okay, and there we go. This is the agenda for their video. What's important is what's said, the order of what's said, and what's not said, what's not talked about, and you can get information from all of that. Okay. That said, this is the most important slide. This is slide number 1. This is what MetaMaterials believes is the most important thing that happened in fiscal year 2021 and in Q4 of 2021. Okay. As far as MetaMaterials is concerned, the biggest thing, of course, is the reverse merger. The fact that the reverse merger was successful. Okay. The date of the reverse merger, June 28th, 2021. Okay. The fact that the reverse merger resulted in both companies having no debt, and it generated $147 million in cash. And they can go to market under an existing at-the-market equity program and raise an additional $112 million based upon stock sales. Okay. They talk about the Series A preferred shares because it is vitally important as far as MetaMaterials is concerned. It's at the top of their list, right? It's one of the most important things of the year. And they talk about how you get them, right? The shareholders of MetaMaterials exchange their shares for MMAT or MMAX. And if you were a Torchlight shareholder, you received the special dividend called a Series A preferred shares. Okay. The last item. Oil and gas assets. They drilled 4 wells in Q4. They spent $14.2 million to maintain compliance with the oil and gas asset leases and preserve options for the disposition of the oil and gas assets. $14.2 million at the end of Q4 in order to get that to happen. Okay. That should give you an idea that they are not giving up on this. It is a big deal, and it has value, and they are not going to lose the value of those oil and gas assets. They will maximize and capture the maximum value for shareholders. Okay. This is slide 2. Okay. Slide 2 is what they feel is extremely important. It's not as important as slide 1, of course. Slide 2 is where they see a major upside. Okay. Obviously, they feel that AR fusion, augmented reality, is the next big thing. They're in this market. They intend to be a big player in there, and they think they have a lot of NDAs with a lot of companies, so they're not allowed to say what's going on. But just the fact that this is slide 2 means keep an eye out on augmented reality. It could potentially be really big for them in the near future. Slide 3, it talks about nanotech and the acquisition of nanotech. Nanotech is a huge deal for MetaMaterials because nanotech is an existing company. They have revenue and they have contracts with G10 central banks, with one or more G10 central banks, actually. Okay. And they make strips that will protect money, basically, right? They make the little security strips that go into money that cannot be duplicated. It's anti-counterfeiting, and it's a big deal. It's what resulted in most of the revenue for 2021, and got it. And it's what is responsible for the increase it's what's responsible for the major increase in revenue. Okay. Now, because nanotech is a new company and MetaMaterials is a new company, they're not making money yet. They're currently losing money, but they have revenue, and that's an important thing. Okay, so it's not unexpected that they might be losing money on nanotech. They will make money in the future, right? This is the way companies start. You spend money, you get revenue, and then you grow that revenue, you increase efficiencies, and then you make money, right? Slides 4 and 5. They talk about intellectual property and human capital. It's critical that they put this up here, right? This means that IP is a big deal. They have a lot of intellectual property. And the fact that human capital is here on slide 5 means that they're growing, they're expanding. The people that they're hiring, most of their staff tend to be PhDs. So they're hiring a lot of people, a lot of expensive people, and a lot of very smart people. And this is critical to the company's future, right? So this is why it's on slide 5. It matters. Slide 5 and 6, right? We have new facilities. Okay, this is what they're doing with a lot of the money that that was provided. They're building new facilities, and these are not just, oh, we're building a building because, it'd be nice to have a nice fancy office. No, if you look at these facilities, they have clean rooms in them. A clean room is not something that is in every building. It's actually a clean room is cleaner than the cleanest hospital operating surgery room. It has special designs, including waffle floors, that make sure there's no dust there. So if there's any dust that appears, the dust will fall through a waffle floor and go all the way down to the floor underneath and not be able to come back up, right? So clean rooms are important. They're part of they're typically seen in things called fabs, which stand for semiconductor fabrication, which stand for semiconductor fabrication sites, right? They typically are used to make next generation chips. They're using the same technology as semiconductor fabs, but they're doing it to create nanostructures. And it's important. These are not just simple these are not just simple, offices that you can just lease and then let go of, okay? Slides 7, 8, and 9. We have 3 slides here about NanoWeb. 3 slides about NanoWeb, okay? And they go on, and NanoWeb is taking place in the Pleasanton site, which is in the heart of Silicon Valley, okay? They tell you how it's made. So the question comes up, why do you need 3 slides to tell you about NanoWeb and how it's made? I mean, do investors care? The answer is no, not really. Investors, we care that they'll make the product, but we don't care how it's made, as long as it's made and does the job, right? But why are they talking about how it's made and all this? This is actually, I'm thinking they've got some deals going on that they can't announce, that they have NDAs with people who are about to employ NanoWeb, and so they can't talk about it. But the fact that it's got 3 slides about it and how it's made and, what the quality level is, they have inspections, liftoff metal, all these steps on how it's made and how much they can make. This is actually a sales slide for I'm guessing some people want to buy NanoWeb right now. Okay, they might have customers that they can't talk about because of NDAs, but it's a big deal, and that's why you have 3 slides on it. Okay. Next, we have CES. They went to CES. The interesting thing here is they got a whole bunch of leads, and they met with a bunch of OEMs. Great. As far as you, the investor, is concerned, they're doing their marketing. Good news. One thing to note is, if you want to see what they're thinking at the time of CES, there's an interview with Sterling Stocks. It's about I think an hour and a half long or 2 hours long, where he talks with George Palikaris and Ken Rice, and it's really worth watching if you're interested in metamaterials. It's just fascinating. Okay. NanoWeb is the next slide. Here they're talking about NanoWeb and the 5G reflector demonstration. 5G is a big deal. possible $5 billion opportunity filled with NDAs. They can't tell you what's going on with it. We don't know how fast this is going to come to market. We really don't, because of the NDAs and what's going on there. Okay. They got some deals going on, and just the fact that they're talking about it and what it can do it's a big deal. It's a really big deal. They've made a lot of progress, and it could be a huge driver for profits in the future. And finally, the last thing that they mentioned is GlucoWise. And this means that GlucoWise is starting to move. So GlucoWise is testing blood sugar levels in the human body using a metamaterial, right? It's hard to do. They've completed initial human studies, but any medical stuff really takes a long time to do, and they're actually making progress with that, right? They've got a lot of funding. They can move forward. They're doing stuff in the UK right now. It's good progress. Yeah. And finally, we get to the Q4 numbers. It took a long time to get to the Q4 numbers, right? This shows the importance of where the numbers are placed, right? The numbers were placed several slides in. Okay. The biggest deal with the numbers is that we have increased revenue dramatically, right? Q4 of 2021 has $2.289 million of revenue versus Q4 of 2020, which had $273,000. Okay. In 2021, total revenue was around 4.1 million, about, compared to 2020 of 1.1 million. It's a big increase in revenue, huge. Okay. Now, if you look at the earnings per share, it's actually a net loss per share right now in Q4, right? It lost 13 cents per share versus 4 cents per share. Okay, you might be thinking that's bad, but this is a startup company. This is a small company starting up. This is what can be expected, right? If we look at the fiscal year 2021, they lost 39 cents per share versus losing 8 cents per share. Okay, basically in 2021, Metamaterials is spending more money. They've started. All these programs have been started. They're building facilities. Of course they're going to be losing money. Okay. I mean, that's what this year is all about. This year is actually about spending money in order to build the plants, in order to develop the technology, in order to get the contracts. Okay. You're not going to get contracts with spending zero money. It ain't going to happen, You're not going to have manufacturing operations spending zero money. That's not going to happen, okay? So they spent money. Great. They lost money. Okay, expected. It's not a big deal. They got a lot of money in the bank, okay? So their burn rate is not bad. They're doing good. And finally, we have this slide. This is where they started taking Q&A, okay? This is where we saw a massive drop in the stock price of MMTLP once they started taking Q&A about MMTLP. Let's listen to what they had to say about MMTLP.
A lot of these is what is the status of the Series A preferred stock dividend? As we reported in the call, when we did the merger with Torch, the shareholders of Torch, as of 2 days before the closing, were entitled to receive Series A preferred stock in Meta as a placeholder, and entitling them to whatever net proceeds there were from the ultimate sale or other disposition of the oil and gas assets that were brought to the merger by Torchlight post-merger. So in January of this year, we reported updates, and in our 10K, we updated even further. We are continuing to pursue the steps that are required to enable a sale or a spin-out of the oil and gas assets this year, acquired as a result of the Torchlight transaction. We have a huge amount of legal and regulatory work underway now to transfer ownership of the assets and make sure the leases are in full force and effect. And we can't provide specific timing today, given the amount of work that's there and underway. We expect to provide a more detailed update on progress and plans later this month based on the results of the work that's currently in process. The other part of this question that came up over and over and over again in this database was that we want to know, what about MMTLP, this new ticker that was established related to the Series A preferred stock? Unfortunately, Meta can't comment on trading activity or other matters related to that ticker symbol, since it's not a company-sponsored symbol or a supported trading symbol. When we issued the Series A preferred shares, they were issued as unregistered, unlisted shares, and that was intentional. And our understanding is that purchases of MMTLP receive Series A preferred shares that were previously owned by either the original holders of the Series A shares that got them in June of last year, or prior holders of MMTLP. And it's also our understanding that the rights associated with those shares, including the right to receive any ultimate dividend, travel with the shares to the new owners.
Okay. So we have an update from Ken Rice, who was talking about that, and he basically didn't say too much. This is standard for Ken. Okay, Ken Rice, during the George Palocaris and Ken Rice interview with Sterling Stocks at CES, when asked about the MMTLP and the preferred and the Series A preferred shares and the dividend, basically said, "Hey, there's COVID. We can't do anything yet, but we're working on it." That was in January. They had completed drilling of all 4 wells on December 13th. But yet, Ken Rice didn't say anything, either because he wasn't allowed to say, or he couldn't say, or he didn't know. Okay? So, Ken Rice is not going to be able to tell us what's going on with MMTLP. But he will tell us what he can legally say. Okay? Now, he also cleared up why he can't talk about MMTLP, because metamaterials had nothing to do with MMTLP, right? MMTLP was created by a third party, and it represents the Series A preferred shares, and was a method to get Series A preferred shares trading. Okay, so as a result, they're legally not able to talk about Series A preferred. They're legally not allowed to talk about MMTLP. They will talk about the Series A preferred shares. So, what does this mean when they said nothing? Well, the update's going to be provided in March. They're still working on the sale. They're still working on the sale/spin out, right? So things are still progressing as we expect, and that's my take on it. What wasn't said? Now this is important, right? What didn't they talk about? Now we know that oil and gas assets have a maintenance cost. And we know that because they spent $14.2 million in Q4 to maintain those oil and gas assets. Now, does that maintenance cost go away in 2022? No, of course not. That maintenance cost is still there. They need to do continuous drilling. There's a continuous drilling clause. As long as they have not sold or disposed of those oil and gas assets, there's a maintenance cost. They need to deal with that. So the continuous drilling clause requires drilling every single year. But they're not talking about that. So that leads me to ask a question. Have the oil and gas assets been sold already? And or are they expecting it to be sold very quickly if it has not been sold? That's a question you need to ask yourself. Normally, they would list that as a major liability, right? Something that they need to be aware of spending. It should be a known expense in 2022 unless they're going to sell this in 2022. So we know they're going to sell it. They're probably going to sell it in March if they haven't already sold it. Okay. And we also know that when the price went down dramatically, it looks like, hey, look, the borrowed shares went up dramatically. 1.83 million shares of borrowed shares, right? So that was huge. That's a big increase right then and there. And yeah, there's a lot of shorting going on, and that's basically what's causing this. So shorts sold a ton of stock, and as a result, the price dropped and plummeted like a brick, right? They sold it into the open market. This price drop was not started by people, who have MMAT and MMTLP and saying, "Hey, look, I got to sell immediately." No, this price drop was started by shorts. It's called a waterfall attack, right? The plan when you induce these attacks, when you do these short attacks, is a lot of people have stop loss orders, right? They want to limit the potential loss in their stocks. So they might put a stop loss at, say, minus 10% or minus 20%, right? So if the stock drops 20%, they will have limited their loss. Well, shorts know this, okay? So shorts will basically go out there and sell enough stock to trigger those stop losses, right? And when that happens, you have you have what's called waterfall selling. You've triggered stop losses from millions of investors who maybe didn't even expect it to happen, right? And they automatically had their shares sold because they had a stop loss order. Okay, so that's the kind of thing that you can expect in terms of short attacks, right? That's how shorts multiply their effective capability of shorting. Okay, the price dropped dramatically, 12.95%. But look at the price of oil. The price of oil went up dramatically today. It's over $110 per barrel. Okay, just today. If we look at that over the course of a year, it's up dramatically. It was in the, it was below $60 at the start of the year. It's now $111. It's almost doubled in terms of prices, and that doesn't look like it's stopping. The price of oil could keep going up. Shorts are in trouble right now. They need to trigger these short attacks to get people to sell, and that's what they'll do, because that's the only thing they can do to get people to sell. Trigger short attacks, create panic and uncertainty, and get people to sell their shares. So that's what happened today. I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. This information is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only. This is basically shorts creating volatility, and this is what you can expect before the shorts crash and burn. Goodbye.